Have you ever heard of Richard Prince?
I have not heard of Richard
Because apparently
Prince.
Richard Prince is considered one of the greatest artists of the past 100 years, evidently. He's
Never heard of him.
he has countless works that have been sold for multiple millions of dollars. Do you know what Richard Prince does?
Takes pictures of other people's art.
That's exactly what he does.
What?
All right, well, here we are, y'all. It's time for Puttin on Airs. You know it. You love it. I hope so. If you don't love it, I don't know why you're listening. I'm Trae, and that's Corey. We're in the virtual Airstream studios. How's it going? Is that a Washington Huskies hat?
Yeah, it is. I got it for $1.
Color scheme thing?
Color scheme. Yeah, you know me. You know, and I feel like the Washington Huskies aren't a team I have to hate. You know?
No, I mean, they're
fine.
They're totally fine. Yeah,
but you know me, when it comes to like collegiate teams and even NFL teams, as long as they're not like a direct rival of my team and they fit into my color scheme, I will rock their gear.
Yeah, but this ain't going to happen in Georgia with the Washington Huskies for sure. But like, if you ever run into somebody who is a fan of whatever team you're wearing and they want to talk to you about it, and then you're like, "Oh, I'm not," they don't actually hit for me. They're always like, "Fucking what?"
Yes.
Okay,
it happens
because I'm not
going
to lie, like I do that, or I don't know that this is what's happened, but like sometimes I'll see somebody in an airport in Salt Lake City or somewhere wearing a UT thing, and I'll, be like, go Vols or whatever.
Who would wear UT stuff just for the fashion? My God.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Maybe people that want to just bring some color into other people's lives, be bright and exciting.
That orange is only for UT fans. I don't see anyone just being like, yeah, this will match my shitty shoes.
Yeah, well, either way,
yes,
if
it happened to me.
Give a go Vols and they don't respond, I always get very upset. I don't say anything to them. I just keep walking. Now, I think usually these people are probably, well, one time there was a kid. I mean, he was in a little art class with Benton. They're like 4 years old at the time. So there's another 4-year-old wearing a Tennessee thing. So of course I don't ask the 4-year-old, but I ask the grown-ups that brought him there. I'm like, oh, you guys from Tennessee or something? He's got the Vols shirt on. That's awesome. And the parents were like, what? No.
Right.
And they seemed like confused. And I was like, he's wearing a Tennessee shirt. And they were like, oh yeah, I think her coworker got him that or something. They didn't even like know. But I'm saying I make that assumption
for sure.
I guess because I would just never do that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I don't think most people do. Like when I see Georgia,
I think black guys do.
Black guys. They? Okay, if I see black guys.
So if I see a black dude, I would not assume. You know what I mean? I wouldn't make the assumption because
a lot of my aesthetic comes from black dudes. Like they're obviously way cooler, but like I do like as far as like shoes and hats, I'm more black than I am white when it comes to that because I like the color coordination. But I'm the only white dude I know that's like that. If I see a white dude wearing some Georgia stuff, and this has happened where I'm like, go Dogs. And like, not only do they not go Dogs me back, they kind of look at me like, why are you fucking talking to me? I'm like, hold on now. This is like when you both drive a Jeep, you give the Jeep wave. Like this is an understood, what are you talking about here? But yeah, I've had people, like I had a Cubs hat. And I'd have had it for years just because I did Second City in Chicago and I went to the Cubs, whatever. And I've always enjoyed the city. And I'll have people assume I might be a Cubs fan. And I'll be like, no, then I'd have to tell this fucking story. But usually now I'm just like, yeah, man, love them, But with this, I'd probably have to be like, oh no, I dress like a toddler, So that's my issue here. But yeah, I've never even thought about it. But you're right. Like anybody else that was doing what I did, if I then was like, "Oh, you a Huskies fan?" and they were like, "No," I'd be like, "Well, what's your fucking problem?"
Yeah, right. Yes.
I'd totally be like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what? Yeah, but if that happens to you, if you're on the other side of it, you're like, what? It's just purple hits.
Yeah.
What don't you get about that?
I'm like, how do you not understand by everything else about me that I just make different choices than most people? Look at me. You know what I mean? But yeah, there was this, like the New Era site one time had like all these hats, all these snapback hats for like $1 and $2 a piece. And I literally bought 200 to 300 hats. Like I've got them like just because they go with every different. I've got like 5 different husky ones because I just like the color scheme. But yeah, I'm an idiot.
Does hit. So, you got some This Week in Fancy for us?
I do have some This Week in Fancy, and there's a couple things that are like, okay, first off, we mentioned last week, obviously our thoughts are with all the people that are in California, devastating stuff. I'm not trying to make light of that, but, because it's happened in LA, it has affected a lot of rich and fancy people, and thus there is a lot of rich and fancy folks in the news right now. One of whom I thought this was just funny, and also just a thing that I would probably shut the fuck up about. You remember Ricky Lake?
Of course, I remember Ricky Lake. I actually, up until very recently, I had a bit, like I'm talking, like I'm trying to think. It's on, the hour that I have coming out soon. There's a bit on there where one of my punchlines I referenced Ricky Lake in it.
Nice.
I'm talking about growing up trash in the 90s, basically, and like my grandma smoking inside
and
or
watching
whatever.
Ricky Lake.
And so I said, like, she smoked inside all the time. There's a lot to it about how they just let us just be outside, like we couldn't just fall into a ditch or get abducted. They didn't give a fuck. We'd just be gone for 10 hours at a time. And then I'd be like, well, what were our options though? Because she smoked inside. It's like, so our options either stay inside and be fucking speed running emphysema and watching Ricky Lake, right?
Yeah.
Or go outside and end up in a van roulette. So those are our choices. So
that's hilarious.
So yeah, Ricky Lake. Oh. Yeah, I'm keeping. So Ricky Lake's back in the news now?
She's back in the news. She's back in. And by the way, I have to say,
I need to put that clip out then.
You should, before I forget, because I just found this out. I just picked up a last minute date in Raleigh, North Carolina, January 16th through the 18th, which is this weekend. Raleigh, come see me. Go to CoreyRyanForster.com for tickets. Sorry, I haven't been able to promo this. I literally just got the gig. Anyways, yes, Ricky Lake is in the news because and this is sad, this sucks, but her house burned down because of the Palisades fires or whatever. But that's not the reason that I saw her in it. I mean, that she would have ended up on a list, but the reason I came across it was the headline was Ricky Lake claims that a medium told her that her house was going to burn down, right? And first off, I don't know about you, but it always blows my mind when people with millions of dollars be going to mediums, because I truly thought for a long time that was purely a poor white trash thing.
No, a lot of, especially California people with money, they got that woo woo new agey spiritual thing going on, crunchy crystals and whatnot. And a lot of those people, they like psychics and dude. I don't know this. I've never looked it up, but I would wager pretty confidently that there's more psychics and tarot card readers and mediums and stuff per capita in this city / county than anywhere else in the country. Dude, this place is lousy with them. There's psychics all over the place. And also, I don't think that's really that crazy. What I mean is, if you're a psychic and Ricky Lake comes in there and she lives in the Pacific Palisades,
right? Why wouldn't you say that?
In Southern California, in the era we live in, which catches on fire, you know what I mean? It's not
right.
Like saying it in a mystic out there kind of way. It's like your house will burn down one day. It's like it's kind of a fairly safe bet to make. Sure. Unfortunately, depending on where you're. As far as psychic things go,
I agree with you. But if you're gonna believe in psychics to the point that you're asking them advice and stuff, if one of them tells you your house is gonna burn down,
shouldn't you leave?
Yeah, you know what I mean. Don't be there. If you because again, you have to believe it in order to spend money on it. Otherwise, why would you spend money on it?
Have you never been to one?
The only one I've been to is in Knoxville. They had there was that black dude that bent spoons and stuff.
Yeah, the guy. Of course, he was he kind of halfway worked at Preservation Pub.
Yeah,
he was
just there. He was a genie.
He had a booth at Preservation Pub on Market Square in Knoxville, and he did wild shit. Yeah,
he was a
mystic.
Yeah, I actually used a ring that he made me as my wedding ring for a long time because I didn't have another one. It was just a spoon or whatever. But so me, and this is gonna be very hypocritical because I've I've talked to you about that. Like, I kind of really believe in ghosts. Like, I've had experiences with them and shit. Like, I don't even know if I believe I definitely don't believe in heaven the way that it's like popularized in our region, but there's part of me that believes in something, in spirits and stuff like that. But when it comes to, and so I'm not saying that like there isn't people who might have that connection. It's just that with the ones that take your money for it, so many of them have been debunked. So like you see, like they've had people like do like Penn and Teller be like, here's the trick. This is what they do because we employ it in magic as well. Like so much of it is like they use the like horoscope model, which is like you just say a bunch of vague things that relate to fucking literally everybody, or maybe they don't relate to everybody, but it's something that everyone wants to think about themselves. So you say it and they believe it. But like, I don't know. It's just fucking. I think if I was Ricky Lake, I probably wouldn't have said that out loud. Is what I'm saying.
I once went to, first of all, things, and a lot of them do both, but we're talking about mediums. A lot of them do both. Do both. There's mediums. If you're like strictly a medium, you don't even traffic in the future, right? Like a medium is not about telling somebody your house is going to burn down. It's like you want to talk to your mama, right? And then a psychic, and again, I'm sure a lot of them do both. I'm sure there's mediums who also read tarot cards and stuff. But I went to a psychic once because, and I've told this on Well Read for sure. I may have told it on here too, so I'll try to keep it brief. But there was a lady who lived out in the sticks in Clay County who had and she looked just like that little ghost hunter woman from Poltergeist, that little diminutive actor lady from the 80s who's in all them horror movies and stuff. And she looked just fucking like her. And she had
what was her name? Do you remember?
I can't remember her name.
Best names.
I don't recall her having a Miss Cleo type of name.
But
even Miss Cleo is really not that weird. It's funny because
she's not even Jamaican.
Well, that also is funny, but I'm just saying the name. In my head's like Miss Cleo is like but that's just a lady named Cleo.
Yeah, Miss
Cleo.
What I mean?
Yeah, but it not even really with the whole thing.
It kind of does, yeah.
But it's not like Anastasia or anything like that, or what is a good psychic's name?
Belvedere? No.
I
mean Zoltar,
Minerva or something.
Yeah, Minerva would be really good. I like Anastasia. Gwendolyn, I think would work.
I like Gwendolyn.
Guinevere would be a good.
Anyway, I don't think she had a name like that, but she had somehow gotten a reputation because, like, I lived in Cookeville already, and I worked at the O'Charlie's with these girls, and they were not from Salina. Most people there didn't even know where Salina was, but they had heard about this lady. So, like, in the area, people were like, "Oh, this is the best psychic in the Upper Cumberland. It's this little hermit out in the fucking woods of Clay County, right?
Can't go to the chains. You got to go local.
And you got to go to like a witch's hut out in the woods or whatever for it to be legit. So I went there with these girls once, I did not. So the difference here is
he's trying to get some pussy.
I did not believe. Sure. Yeah. Yes. Right. Yeah. They just wanted to check it out. And I was like, yeah, I'm from there. Let's go.
Yeah.
But she told me, so I went there as a skeptic is my point, but she told me at that thing, one of the things she told me was that my grandpa was going to die. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And like,
again,
I didn't rush.
Good call.
Right. Exactly. He's old. Grandpas are old, especially are good. He smokes a pack a day. He's got heart disease.
She went out on a limb thinking he was still alive. Honestly.
Right. Yes. I know. That's what I'm saying. So it's like, that's the type of thing they do, but I did not. And then he did die, but like I did not.
How soon?
She said he would. She didn't just say he would die. She said like within 6 months, and then that happened. But
was he sick?
Well, I mean, he had not. He didn't know he was. He had a massive heart attack like 4 or 5 months after that.
Yeah.
But I didn't. It never crossed my mind, of course
not.
Like to go to him and be like, "You need to go to the doctor now."
Yeah, what would he do?
This lady, first of all, he just bitch slapped me if I tried to tell
woman.
With cards and a fucking scarf around her head. Told you that? God damn! I thought you was going to college, boy. What kind of stupid shit is this? So but if Ricky Lake is going to, you are right. If you're like, if a lot of these people have like a psychic, like you have a therapist, you
Yeah.
know, like they go to them repeatedly,
Right.
which is also weird because they have to be continuously saying things that don't happen, I would imagine.
Yes.
So how do you keep going back? I don't know, man. I don't know how it works, but the Palisades thing, it's like, because a lot of people have talked about, and I get it. I mean, even me and Katie have talked about it. Like a lot of the narrative about, it's like, well, the Palisades fire, like, look, that's rich people and mansions and stuff, and which is like largely true, but not exclusively. There's some not literally everyone who lives out there is a rich person. And also, I'm sure you've seen the comedian Pete Lee, right? They like comedian Pete Lee. His house burned down in the Palisades, and he was on the Tonight Show the next day. He was in New York to do the Tonight Show the next day when his house burned down, and he still went on the Tonight Show and just talked about his house burning down, and it was a pretty anyway, respect. But I'm saying he's not, Pete Lee's great, obviously, but
he
he's
does
not
well, but
we're not talking about, it's not Chris Rock, it's not Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, right, exactly. And then there's the other fire, the other main fire, and it's just in like the suburbs, and it's just regular people's houses burning down, so it's still all fucked up. But also, I have a friend who lived in the Palisades, and now don't. He's okay, but they had to evacuate, and it's just nothing hits. But Ricky Lake, I assume she probably, first, she ain't done nothing in 20 years, has she?
No. Matter of fact, she wild because, like, when they the lead to the story was like, it said Hairspray star Ricky Lake, and I was like, that's true, but that's not how I remember her. Like, she's had a lot of things. Like, Ricky Lake kind of wild because it's like she was a known and respected Broadway, I guess, actress or whatever. Then she had the talk show. Also, she was a known fat, and then she looked good. And I think now she still looked good, like she was like one of the first to go from being a fat to being a skinny without.
Well, in my recollection, her and Oprah was both yo-yoing that whole time.
Yeah.
Like simultaneously, Ricky Lake and Oprah was both going from fat to not fat, which, who among us, I certainly relate.
And I think it would be, I always like with Oprah, especially, maybe less so with Ricky Lake, but because Oprah was just like, and she still be doing it like, oh, my weight, it's such an issue or whatever. I used to always be like, lady, God damn it. Like, you got $1 billion. Just fucking have a man cook you the shit and then eat that shit. But then I was like, okay, even if I had that, I would still get in the tater chips.
Still find the hits. Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Of course. And if you're Oprah, dude, like, she can have foie gras any fucking time she wants, dog. So, like, I've since gone back and realized, like, dude, you would Orson Welles your ass so fucking quick, man. Like, dude, we barely had tasted the hits, and I got gout, bruh.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No,
like,
I gained 40 pounds in 6 months, literally, when we first started having access to the hits, as you said. So
Ricky Lake, but that whole, while we're here for a second, I did just watch the first episode of the Jerry Springer documentary. And obviously Ricky Lake and Oprah get brought up a little bit. Did you fucking know that, like, when Springer started the show, like, it weren't wild. It weren't wild at all. Like, he was just a normal, like, he'd been doing, he was a news anchor. He'd been the mayor of Cincinnati, and he just wanted to do like a normal talk show, like how those things just kind of were, like the Mike Douglas and all that shit. And it was just kind of super boring. And then he gets this producer the producer that he got, bro, was like, it makes so much sense that this show went wild. The producer that he got, his job before that was writing the headlines for National Enquirer. Like, that was his gig. And he'd gone on Letterman having to defend all these things. Like, no, I'm telling you, all this is 100% true. And Letterman's like, really? So this woman's toaster was possessed by the devil? And he's like, that's what she says. Did you, whatever. And so he gets involved with Springer, and he's like, we're having the Klan on, Well, when they first started,
What a wild motherfucker that dude must have been. Like, how do you?
Still, he's alive, bro. He's still
really?
alive. Yeah, and you wouldn't think it because he a FDDH, but like, and
what? He's got to be old as shit if he's from all the way back then, and he's FDDH.
He's FDDH now. He was only slightly FDDH then, so it's like he'll die soon for sure. But like, fucking, their whole thing was like, you're just hoping to get number 2 because Oprah, their number was like, if you get 2 million viewers, you're like, that's the number to get where it's like, you're not great, but you're not going to be canceled. And Oprah was getting regularly 14 to 18 million like a day. Right. And they're like, dude, no one's going to beat Oprah. It's never going to be close. You just want to be kind of in the ballpark, shoot for number 2. Did you know that Springer ended up beating Oprah? Like, I did not know that.
I think I did know, dude. He was Jerry Springer was like a cultural phenomenon. I know Oprah's a kingmaker and all that shit, obviously, but I'm not surprised that at one point that at his apex, he got above Oprah because that shit was. But also, it's like, does it say in the documentary? Did he? Because those daytime shows, it's like Mr. Rogers he started his own show on like cable access at a local affiliate in Pittsburgh. And he always stayed in Pittsburgh, but it became a national hit. Siskel and Ebert were Chicago.
Springer was Chicago too.
Film critics who just started a daytime television show in Chicago that then got syndicated all these other markets. That's Springer too, right? So
Springer was in Chicago.
So it's like, you can you don't have to, like, Ricky Lake was a successful Broadway star or whatever, like you said. Or it's like Drew Barrymore is a celebrity. Ellen DeGeneres was huge, but with Jerry Springer, nobody knew who the fuck he was, right?
That was the thing,
right? He was a complete unknown former politician, but in a local market somewhere,
you can do fine.
You can try that.
Yeah, of course.
But the idea that then becomes massive is
crazy.
It's crazy. Even though it happened multiple times in multiple different genres and stuff. Sure. Like a lot of those, like Judge Judy's like the highest paid person in the history of television or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And barely works. Judge Judy gets like $50 million a year or something like that. And she comes in like once a month for 3 days or something. And they do all them cases back to back. And then it's like, God, Springer about hitting a lick. Good Lord.
Dude, that's how them game shows are. But Springer was doing 200, episodes a year or whatever. But like, Springer was not really on board. Like, it wasn't his idea to make the show crazy. Like,
right.
Springer and even the producer that ended up making the show wild and sort of taking over Jerry was like, dude, Jerry's like, he's the nicest guy ever. He was super laid back. Like, he just wanted to have a talk show and kind of meet people and whatever. And he goes, but we were tanking in the ratings. And I was like, Jerry, do you want to have a good show or do you want to succeed or whatever? And he's like, all right, just do whatever you want to do. And he said half the time Jerry wouldn't even know what the fuck was about to happen until the day of and shit. Like, they wouldn't really run anything by him. They had like 8 different producers who handled like 20 episodes a year. And it was like their full-time job. And they would just conjure a show, fly the people in, produce the shit out of them. And by the way, I found out that so many of those things, I'm sorry that this is turning into a Jerry Springer episode all of a sudden, but I found out that so many of those things that I thought was a work was a shoot. Like, I was like, surely they're making some of this shit up. But like,
people always used to say that it's like, that's all fake, right? Those are, because I always thought
they were produced.
Yeah, but I always thought, I was like, dude, there's no way there's this many great actors, you know what I mean? That they could find, because like those people, they seem pretty real, most of them on there. Well, like, seem like real trash. It's like, if this person is like is an actor who's faking this,
they're great.
They're incredible. Number one. Number two, no actor would ever do that because you can't ever be on anything else after that. Yeah, right. Like, because for obvious, so it's like,
that's how I feel about when they say like there's these crisis actors, for all this shit. They're like, well, there's an actor trying to get work. I'm like, they're not going to go be on the CW after they do Westboro Baptist shooting.
Right. Yeah.
But it was fake. The fake part was that the producers would sort of like coach them into getting more riled up than maybe they would have normally been. But the root of the story was all real. They would just get them in there and be like, okay, it would be like a mock trial. Like, okay, we're bringing your ex-husband in here and I'm going to be the ex-husband. And I would say these things and they would respond and this motherfucker would literally just start throwing shit against the wall. He's like, bitch, I cheated on you. That's how you're going to react to me? Fucking scream at this motherfucker. And then the woman's sitting there just like in tears. They're showing all this backstage footage. But like, it was real. They just like coached them and produced them. But like, it was crazy to me. But anyways, that's the Ricky Lake thing. Another This Week in Fancy. I thought this was interesting. There were arrests at Westminster Abbey, Trae, after the Charles Darwin grave was spray painted. I didn't know Darwin was buried at Westminster Abbey, but he is. Mm-hmm. But climate activists have spray painted over the grave of Westminster Abbey. It was Allison Lee, 66. She's a retired teaching assistant from Derby. And she said, we've done this because there's no hope for the world, and we did it on Darwin's grave specifically because he would be turning in that grave because of the 6th mass extinction taking place right now. Which I think is
okay,
a little disrespectful to Charles.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going by. I don't know. I'm about to say I'm a little conflicted, I guess, because it's like it seems to have. Not worked for them. Well, it's not. I was about to say it worked in that I just heard about it all the way over here on the other side of the world,
right?
But it's not going to change
do anything.
Obviously, but it's like the ones that bother me. It's like I'm sure you've seen there's all these protesters. It's also a climate change thing. And look, I'm living in a place that's on fire right now. Climate change don't hit for me, but those people, they focus on big oil in particular, like fuck big oil. But what they do is they go to like the Louvre or like the fucking MoMA or these like huge museums with like classic, like, priceless classics in it. And they'll like handcuff themselves to the fucking wall and throw oil all over it or oil on the wall and paint stuff like. And I'm like, what did that fucking Monet have to do with the goddamn Deepwater Horizon or whatever? Like, I don't get. And again, everybody sees those, so it's like for publicity's sake,
in that regard,
it works in that regard. But it's still just like a dick move, and also makes climate protesters look bad. It makes everybody look like an asshole because it's like that. That's just a reach. It just feels like a reach to me. The Darwin thing, it's like a direct corollary. And I also think him. Right, yeah, but.
I'm glad you got there on the art because I feel the same way. Like, okay, obviously the nature of our ecosystem and environment and climate change is far more important than anything any human being ever painted. I agree with that 100%. But dog, don't fuck with the goddamn Mona Lisa to make your fucking point because, like you said, like. It's just making those people look like assholes. And I guess here's my argument of like, well, the point is you do something dickheaded and it gets attention. But like the people who could do something about climate change that need to know this, they know and they don't care. You know what I mean? Like they know. Yes. There's no like I would never say don't ever do any type of protest because nothing could ever be done because that's not true. There have been several protests where like it really did change the outcome of something and it was worthwhile. Like, a miners' strike or something like that. Like absolutely. Sometimes they work, but like, dude, again, the rich people aren't fucking over the earth because they don't know that climate change is real. They don't care. Right. Like they don't give a shit. And like, so who are you trying to get on your team? Like the rest of us also know. And it's, what are we going to do? Like they fucking got all the money and they don't care. So like, don't ruin the one good thing we have, which is lasting art.
Not to get too far into all this, but, the only type of thing like that I could ever see working is a more Luigi-istic approach.
Yeah, there you go.
Like, I mean, that might make them care, but defiling a priceless, art classic or whatever is not. They're never going to give a fuck.
They don't give a fuck about that.
Like,
yeah, that's their money laundering. So yeah, no, you're right. You start actually holding some oil men hostage in the back of a car.
Yeah,
maybe, but like, yeah, I just don't really. And again, like even me, who is on these people's side, I still look at that and I'm like, you just look like a child throwing blood at the in the Louvre. You know what I mean? But yeah, so anyways, yeah, I guess you're right. With Darwin, though, that actually, if he knew what it was being used for, that would probably kind of that would hit for him. Another thing on the fires, I just thought this was a not to get into politics at all, but I love a good hypocrisy story, especially as it pertains to the rich and famous. I think we've mentioned before that, and this is unfortunate, but like the closest thing we have to a royal family over here is probably the goddamn Kardashians.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Khloe Kardashian and all the Kardashians, of course, were bitching about California, how they were handling all this shit, not having enough water, whatever the fuck, which like, hey, you're allowed to have that opinion. I'm sure there was some mismanagement, but it was found out today that Khloe Kardashian is saying all this while couple months ago, because y'all have I guess y'all have a water allotment out there or whatever, an allowance. Khloe Kardashian, not only did she use 330,000 gallons of water in a month, that's how much she went over the monthly water allowance.
Doing what?
I don't know. Refilling a pool a bunch of fucking times. I have
no surely
goddamn
not. Is she the one? I don't keep up. I don't keep up with them bitches. But no. But what I mean is, like, is she the one that has that makeup company or what? Yes. Are we talking about like she owns a business that used this much?
I don't know.
We're talking about
Khloe Kardashian
herself used this much.
I'm just telling you what I read.
Because there's like a billionaire couple out here that owns like 80% of the public water allotment or the land that public water is on or something for like almond plantations or some shit. And it's just all so fucked up and stupid. It's like, one of the most chilling endings to any movie in recent memory, fiction, nonfiction, or otherwise, in my opinion, is the Chiron at the very end of The Big Short, where they're talking about Christian Bale's character, who was that like autistic genius guy who saw the 2008 financial crash coming. He saw it coming and bet on it. And then it's telling what happened to all those characters at the end of the movie. And it gets to his character, who's a real person. And it says, he took his money from this and stepped away from finance and recently has re-entered the financial industry, and he's working exclusively in one field, water rights. Mm-hmm, right. Mm-hmm. And that's like the last thing it says. It goes off. It like spins a fucking chill through your bones, because of, how the water wars are coming. Our sons will be veterans of the water wars one day, probably. But anyway,
while still fighting the Saudi wars, who knows? Yeah. No, it's harrowing. But no, all it says, I've just looked it up again. It just says it's pointed out that Khloe and Kim together used 330,000 gallons over their allotment. Which again, you're right. It has to be some sort of business thing because I can't even fathom like. Again, we're talking about refilling up several pools. I don't know how many showers they got going at all times.
Yeah. I doubt it's just like, water slides or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's hard to imagine that they're always just like partying
That's how they
in the
get
yard.
To the other room.
Right. Yeah, just water slides and fucking pools and, they're just always in a bikini and whatnot. But, they don't hit. Fuck
no, they
them.
don't. And lastly, this week in fancy, when our buddy Mark just sent us to this, so shout out to Smart Mark. Y'all listen to Weekly Skews every week. Lastly, for this week in fancy, a judge ends a man's 11-year quest to dig up landfill and recover $765 million in Bitcoin. There was a hard drive apparently that he suggested that had accidentally been thrown away that had access to 8,000 Bitcoins, like whole Bitcoins, which like right now, one Bitcoin is, I think Bitcoin's at like 81,000 or something. I don't know. But like back then, like you just get a Bitcoin, it wasn't shit, but now it's worth so much. So this dude basically is saying there's a hard drive with 765 million in Bitcoin. Now, like that part, I can sort of wrap my head around. It's like, well, how could there just be Bitcoins in a landfill? Okay, it's on a hard drive. But like, here's the part that I don't understand. Because I've heard people say this all the time. Like, I had Bitcoin, like I actually still do. Like, no, I didn't get into the crate. I bought a little bit just to see what was up, not a lot at all. Made a decent amount of money off of it. Have since like sold that part. All the shit I've got in there now is total profit. Like, even if it tanks, I'm out nothing. I just did it to fuck around. But the way I got it was I just used my PayPal to buy some Bitcoin, right? But there's people that mine for it,
buddy. Don't even. I've tried to ask Mark this, and he's smart, and I think he does get it, but he can't explain it to me in a way that I get it. But and I've not just relied on Mark. I've also Googled it before. I've like read whole articles and answers and stuff for trying to make sense of what the fuck that means. And I have no idea.
Okay,
there's a thing called a blockchain involved.
Right.
I know that I don't know. I don't even want to attempt to try to
you're making me feel
explain
better.
it because I know that I won't have it right. And I've looked it up multiple times and read, this is how that works multiple times.
And still don't make sense to you.
Never made sense of it.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that because, again, that's what really got me in here because he was talking about, like, not only does he have all this that it was worth, but how long it took him to mine this. And I was like, I bought mine. What do you mean mine? Because I'm like, it ain't real. Like, it's not real. What do you mean?
Well, first of all, if he himself mined it and that's his computer, it's his own goddamn fault for throwing it away with 8,000 Bitcoins. But anyway, if that's really what happened, can you imagine that?
No.
That's like Brian Dunkelman getting fired from American Idol after season 1 type
Worse,
shit.
Though.
It is. I mean, $275 million, like you would have just had that. You would just have $250 million if you just had kept that computer.
$765 million.
Oh my God.
$750 million.
Yeah. I don't know how you live with yourself.
I couldn't.
How do you ever think about anything else other than that?
Well, I mean, you clearly don't, because for 11 years he's been in a quest to dig up a landfill. 11 years. Because, like, dude, it's gone, brother. Like, how many hard drives has he found out there? And when, like, this is it, and then it wasn't.
This makes me, and I don't have the specifics of it. It wouldn't be this story. You couldn't do it off this story, but this should inspire. There should be a like a digital hackery Indiana Jones treasure hunt adventure movie. That's like
Ready Player One-esque.
Yeah, I was about to say Ready Player One is kind of that. That's true, and it's got all that pop culture shit in it. Actually, I guess that is what Ready Player One is. I like the movie. I was kind of surprised. I mean, that's Spielberg.
Does the book hit harder?
No, that's what I was about to say. Like,
really,
a lot of people who like the book. This is just my opinion. A lot of people who like that book didn't really like the movie, but I couldn't even finish that book, which is very rare for me. And I tried to read that book before the movie ever came out. And I couldn't even finish it because it was just so, to me, it felt so clear that it was written by a like just massive dork, right? Who's like trying to do cool shit or have cool characters. Like there's characters in it that are supposed to be super cool, but they're really cringeworthy, in my opinion. It's like, this is what a dork thinks a cool guy is.
Yeah.
And the whole book is like that. I mean, again, so, sorry.
Good on them.
If the author's listening, no disrespect, I ain't gonna
clearly it was success.
Yeah. And also massive success. So it's a me thing. But anyway, I was just like, I can't believe this book hit so hard because the book was a huge hit before the movie ever came out. So I was like, I can't believe this book hit so hard for people because I love nerdy shit. And I was just like, I couldn't get down with it. But then the movie came out and my expectations were low. And so I really liked the movie.
I did too.
I
thought it was great.
Exceeded them. But
only two, I've only known two, now that you're saying this, 2 instances where the movie's better than the book. And it's this and Shawshank Redemption. By a mile.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
and I love Stephen King.
Yeah. I'm about to say, I don't know if I'd say a mile. It's, I mean, Shawshank.
Have you read the book?
Yeah, I have.
I like the book. The movie's fucking so much better.
What I don't remember how. I mean, I read the book years and years ago. I don't remember it being. Is it like crazy different? I know that the
No,
story
it's
is
not.
called Rita Hayworth and the
It's not
Shawshank
crazy
Redemption.
different. It's real short. I read it.
It's
in
a
one,
novella. It's
It's a
part of
novella. Yeah, I read it in
Different
one day.
Seasons, which is a collection of 4 novellas, and that's one of them.
Yeah. Differences. I mean, I mean, the characters are not as sympathetic. That's the thing, is in the book, you don't really fall in love with Red and Brooks as much, because in the movie, they made the smart choice to leave out what it was they were in jail for,
Right.
you know, and in the book, they do not do that. And also, but Brooks, dude, in the book, he only takes up 1 page. Like, he only takes up 1 page, and he's one of the his arc in the movie is one of the greatest things about the movie, and it's one of the most memorable things, like him going to the place, carving his name, and, you know, finding out that he can't make it in the new world or whatever. But he only takes up 1 page, and it's basically just to illustrate how big of a piece of shit he is, you know. But anyways, whatever. I just wanted to point that out. But we can take a break, and then we will be right back with stuff.
Stuff. Well, it's 2025, ain't it? Sure is. You ready to optimize your nutrition this year? Get serious about what you eat, what you put in your body? Well, we got good news. Factor has chef-made gourmet meals that make eating well easy. They're dietitian approved, ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes. You can fuel up right and feel good no matter what life throws at you. Factor arrives fresh and fully prepared, perfect for any active, busy lifestyle. You can lose up to 8 pounds in 8 weeks with Factor Keto meals based on a randomized controlled clinical trial with Factor Keto. Results may vary depending on diet and exercise, of course. But Factor has 40 options across 8 dietary preferences on the menu each and every week, so it's easy to pick meals that are tailored to your goals. You can choose from preferences like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or the aforementioned keto option. Factor can help you feel your best all day long with wholesome smoothies, breakfast, grab-and-go snacks, and more add-ons. Reach your goals this year with ingredients you can trust and convenience that can't be beat with Factor. I literally just got finished eating Factor just a minute ago. It was this Peruvian chicken with some cauliflower rice and broccoli. It was pretty fire. I'm a big Factor person. Again, I found Factor through doing this for them. They sent it to me, but before I could even follow up on it, my wife had already signed us up to be full-time subscribers because she was such a fan immediately too. But it just makes a lot of sense for us because it said, you know, I work from home when I'm not touring, which is, you know, the early part of every week, but I'm busy when I'm here at home and I don't have time. I love to cook, but I don't have time to cook for lunch every day. That's silly. Who does? So but I don't want to eat just like something out of a can either, or like a TV dinner or whatever, you know, like I made a hungry man Salisbury steak or something. I'm not a 14-year-old fat kid anymore. I'm a grown man. I want nutrition. And that's where Factor comes in, because they have these very legit hitting ass meals that are convenient and quick and fit into your busy schedule. They just make you feel smart and good about yourself. So it's time for you to eat smart with Factor. You can get started at factormeals.com/POA50 off. Use the code POA50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code POA50 off at factormeals.com/POA50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box with Factor. Make a hit.
Let's talk about jeans for a second. I recently got a pair from the Perfect Jean, and they are basically the unicorn of jeans. Like, they fit like a dream. They look fantastic. They are insanely comfy. Sometimes I literally forget that I'm wearing, like, I've fallen asleep in them several times. And in case you didn't know, this is an ad. Obviously, the Perfect Jean did tell me to say this, but I would not lie about how awesome these jeans are, because they super live up to the name. Picture this: 700,000 pairs of nuts rescued from bad jeans. That is 2 nuts per dude. The hero, the Perfect Jean. Say goodbye to stiff cardboard denim and hello to comfort. These jeans fit like they were custom made. They stretch like you would not believe. They also look fantastic. The fabric is as soft as a baby's bottom, and they're durable enough to survive. You know, you lady pulling them down, throwing them on the floor, and y'all getting busy. The Perfect Jean also has a seriously massive range of sizes from they got 6 fits from skinny to thick, waist sizes from 26, I wish, to 50, more likely, and lengths from 26 to 38. So it doesn't matter if you're a short king, thick daddy, or somewhere in between, you can find the perfect fit for the body you're rocking. For a limited time, our listeners get 15% off their first order, plus free shipping at theperfectgene.nyc, or Google the perfect gene and use the promo code POA15 for 15% off. Y'all, especially this time of year, this being the colder months, I tend to fluctuate, yo-yo, if you will. And with a lot of jeans, that would mean that there's periods of time when I just can't be wearing them. But not with the perfect jeans, because they sort of contour to my body. They stretch with me. And I look good no matter what size I am. That's the perfect thing. I've never really been a huge fan of dark jeans. I don't know why. I'm just a redneck. I like the light wash. But my wife was like, look, if the perfect gene is sending you something, get some dark jeans. You know, I want to see you in some dark jeans. I got some. And I got to admit, they look amazing, but they basically feel like sweatpants. Like I said, I've come home from, going out to a nice dinner wearing them, and I just laid straight down and fell asleep because I didn't even realize. They've revolutionized T-shirts as well. The perfect tee has just enough stretch to hide that beer belly while accentuating your arms and chest for that flawless look. They have free shipping, exchanges, and returns. You can have peace of mind knowing that your order is completely risk-free. It's finally time to stop crushing your balls in uncomfortable jeans by going to theperfectgene.nyc. Our listeners get 15% off your order plus free shipping, free returns, and free exchanges when you use code POA15 at checkout. That's 15% off for new customers at theperfectgene.nyc with promo code POA15. Once after you purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Fuck your khakis and get the perfect gene. Skew.
All right, and we're back. A couple quick, immediately as soon even as the words "Ready Player One" were coming out of your mouth, I was thinking to myself, I was like, well, I guess that's kind of just what that is. But like, I think they can make it a more like a less like,
children's.
Yeah, it's like it's very video gamey, and also it's a strange. It's not that strange because the author of that book is like he grew up in the '80s, so he loves the '80s. But it's like a combination of stuff that's like. It seems like it would hit for kids, but mixed with all these 80s references that kids are not going to understand. Sure. You know what I mean? Again, it does hit for me, but like, I don't know, just like National Treasure meets Enemy of the State, but updated for the, for this era, like a more realistic techno thriller, but with a like cyber heist or a digital treasure aspect to it. But anyway, yeah, so I found something out recently that it's just kind of blowing my mind. It's very relevant to the show because it involves the high art world. Which I've always professed to be pretty confounded by and no more.
It's laundering, dude.
But there's a guy. Okay, first, actually, before I even get to this guy, so I found this because I was looking up like the most expensive pieces of art photography ever created or ever sold, right? Just for this show. And I found one in particular, and we'll get to it a little later, but led me down this rabbit hole. And I was like, oh, I for sure got to talk to Cho about that. First of all, let's take a little deviation here, a little diversion, and talk about where are you at on like, aggregators or appropriators? A big thing in social media. There's like been controversy about like fuck Jerry or the fat Jew. Yeah. And for people that are listening and haven't kept up with that, what these people do is
we had a feud.
They take, Corey the fat Jew did have a feud. Didn't he try to get you to come on his podcast?
And was trying to get me to bring him on ours. And I just was like, fuck all that.
What these people do is that they just take videos, whatever kind of videos. It could be like America's Funniest Home Video style candid camera video, or it could be a purposeful joke or a sketch. But they just take these videos and they just post them on their own page to get followers and likes and stuff. But they don't make these videos. They, putting it most graciously, they curate them is what they do. So what do you think about that whole phenomenon?
Well, and by the way, this is so rarely the case. If the person credits the person, tags the person, blah, 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 then like, I still sort of have a problem with people who are like, I have no talent. I'm just going to get a bunch of talented, because like they still monetize their pages. They still make a lot of money on this shit.
A lot of money. Yeah.
If they're given credit every now and then, it could help the person. So like, that's at least one thing. But I will say this, like, the only reason any of them pages give credit now is because of the backlash of everyone going, what the fuck are you doing not crediting?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they absolutely would rather not do it. But also, like, I kind of think it should go a step further. Like, you also, not only should you credit the person and shout them out, you should ask them first if they could do it, if you could do it. Like, you should have to message them and go, like, that's how the news does. Like, right. I've had my clips used on the news, and they would just contact me and they're like, hey, we're just wanting to know if we could use this for the news. Obviously they don't pay you, but I just go, yeah, sure, whatever, you know, use it, I don't care. Like, there should at least be that. Now their argument would be like, well, like, that's just so much red tape that I wouldn't ever be able to do anything because I'd just be yeah, right, okay, then you don't get to do it. You know, I don't know what to tell you, but like, I just can't stand, what I can't stand is when you scroll through the comments, all the adoration from people. They're like, oh, the fat Jew's the best. Oh, fuck, Jerry's amazing. It's like, no. Everyone else is amazing. Everyone else is amazing. Anyone could do this. Just pick what hits and put it out.
Exactly. I know. It drives me crazy too. And sometimes those people get, like I said, there's adoration in the comments, but sometimes it leads to like real opportunity. Like the fat Jew for a minute there was in, like I think he was in a couple movies and had like TV show deals and all this stuff, whatever.
Makes
no
sense.
He never did anything. He just shared other people's hits. And it's an epidemic and people do it. And
I mean, Rex Chapman.
I know. Rex, though, Rex is one of the ones that he gives credit.
He does give credit, of course.
So because Rex has shared a lot of our videos.
Me too, yeah.
And whenever, and it hits whenever Rex does it because he's got such a huge following, and it's like it gets you out there in front of other people. But
because he retweets, he don't just steal the video,
right? He gives you credit for it, so he can help you get followers, help you get views, all this stuff that you have to care about on social media. So like he's helpful in that way, but that is his whole thing. That is what he does. At least with him, and of course, the two things are completely unrelated. But
it's a retweet, which is different than scraping the video and posting it yourself. Also, he's a former
pro athlete and everything.
Of course, yeah,
you know what I mean? He's not just like a basement dwelling troll who's putting this shit together.
He hit in a regard before finding this other avenue or whatever, and he gives credit. So he's one of the good ones, you know. Right.
But it's like an epidemic in social media, and I mean, you know, sometimes. You'll create something that just takes on a life of its own, basically becomes a meme. Like you had that picture you took of that church sign in your neighborhood.
It'll outlive me.
And it's just, it pops up every 3 months or something on a different part of the internet. And
multiple people have gotten millions and millions of views off of that. It's crazy.
Yeah. And then very early on when you first did it, Tosh.0 stole that from you.
Yes, they did.
Which was fucked up in my opinion.
Of course.
Like, because they stole it.
They stole the picture and changed the caption.
And didn't give you credit for it at all.
No.
With their Tosh.0's Instagram page.
Yeah, obviously. I don't think Daniel did a thing.
No, he definitely is not running their Instagram page. So it wasn't him that did it. But whoever did it, they should have known better working for a comedian of that level. They ought to know, because that's the thing too. We're comedians, so we take it personally because, you know, joke theft, stealing jokes is like the cardinal sin in stand-up comedy. It's like, so it's a whole thing, but you think that it's like this aggregator thing, that it's like a social media phenomenon. It's a symptom of our age.
Yeah.
And I thought that too until I found out about this guy named Richard Prince. Have you ever heard of Richard Prince?
I have not heard of Richard Prince.
Because apparently Richard Prince is considered one of the greatest artists of the past 100 years, evidently. He's he's a big fucking deal. According to the New York Times, he's regarded as one of the most revered artists of his generation. He has countless works that have been sold for multiple millions of dollars. He is like New York high society artistic royalty, Richard Prince. Do you know what Richard Prince does?
Takes pictures of other people's art.
That's exactly what he does.
What?
He started a genre that is called appropriation art using re-photography. So I'll show you.
So many words for theft you just said.
I'll show you what is, I think, his most famous artwork or whatever. And obviously, if you guys are listening only, you're not going to be able to see this, but I'll explain it to you. Also, it's this one over here on the right. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
It's this right here on the right. So you see on the right, it's a cowboy running through an arid landscape with clouds in the background. That is his picture.
Right.
Okay. What he did was he took a picture of a Marlboro ad without the Marlboro ad part of it.
Right.
So it's just a zoomed in part of the Marlboro ad. And on its own, it just looks like, its own thing.
Like, it's not like he hired another actor and went to a similar thing to recreate this thing. He just zoomed in.
Yes, exactly. And it's like, because apparently his day job at the time was working for Time Magazine in their print department or their ad department, working with these ad layouts and stuff. So he was seeing shit like this all the time. And that's when he got inspired to do this. And it says here on Wikipedia, Prince's re-photographs of the Marlboro Man advertisements attempt to question.
No, they don't.
How original and realistic the commercial depiction of a macho man on a horse really is. That's the like art critic rationale.
Okay. So he didn't
and
say
that photograph I just showed you sold for millions of dollars at auction, by the way. Like, but go ahead.
But did he say that's what he was trying to do, or did an art critic decide that's what he was trying to do?
I believe that's an art critic's interpretation of it.
Okay. Second question.
It was listed by Time Magazine as one of the top 100 most influential images of all time.
Kill me.
His picture, not the Marlboro Man ad. All those same people, of course, and I guess they would be like, well, that's the whole point of this. But all those same people would be like, what a soulless endeavor, this Marlboro Man ad.
Of course.
This is a cancer upon the fucking face of American artistry. But this little piece of it, as seen through this guy, this is sheer brilliance.
Who just did this?
Yeah, right.
He didn't he just did that. But like, did the person that took the original photograph not have copyright laws on that? Did they not make money on it?
So he has unsurprisingly been sued. I think the original photographer of that is a guy named Norm Clayson, who don't even have a Wikipedia page.
That's the guy who hits.
Yeah, but he said, it says, Clayson has expressed being aggrieved over the failure to attribute his work, saying, quote, if you see somebody has copied your work, there's something deep down in you that says, I'm the author of that, which is
not even
true.
Deep down, surface level that says that.
Right,
you don't have to dig deep. It's just a fact.
Yeah, dude. And he's been sued a bunch, and he's one that's been upheld, and I don't, because it's like, I guess he
got a lot of money.
They argue that it's some kind of artistic reinterpretation or something, but I don't.
But it's not, though.
I'm with you.
Like,
I know.
It'd be one thing if that guy, like I see people that do, there's this guy who I love following him on Instagram. I don't even think he sells them, though. He just does it to hit. Like, he goes and gets like these oil paintings from like thrift shops or whatever that like your grandma would have on the wall, and then he like repaints them with like Donatello and shit, like from like I would go, okay, that he did do a different thing with it, and it's like, with like reacting to music and stuff. Okay, you're adding stuff to it. It's sort of fair use. This is not that. So at first, when I was first reading about this guy's whole thing, I was like, it must be something like that. Like he must take images from ads, and then he puts them in a different background, or he does something to recontextualize it. He changes them somehow. He has to, but he don't. He just zooms in or whatever, and that's it. But that's not even the wildest. I mean, it's about to take a wild turn. But this is how I actually found him. The fourth most expensive photograph ever sold in this country, or maybe in the world, sold for $4 million in May of 2014, and it's a Richard Prince piece called Spiritual America. Do not Google this picture. I'm telling you all right now. I was going down a list of all the most expensive pictures ever sold, and this one was on it, obviously, and I was like, what the fuck? So Spiritual America is Richard Prince took a
So are you probably heard about the very controversial photo shoot that Brooke Shields did when
she was like 15.
She was 10 years old. She did a photo shoot with a photographer named Gary Gross.
Oh,
nominative determinism.
Jesus,
if I've ever seen it. Gary Gross, like a Playboy shoot. She did a Playboy shoot at 10 years old. Playboy put it in a sub print. What are those called?
oh my God,
is print part of it? An imprint?
An imprint.
Anyway,
yeah.
like
a
Harper, subsidiary.
Harper Horizon.
Yeah, called Sugar and Spice. They ran it in that in the 70s. And Richard Prince took, and in case you're wondering, this is why I said not to Google it. Like I said, it's a play, but you might be thinking it's like, oh, so it's like oddly sexualizing and suggestive. It's like, no, she's full frontal naked, covered in oil, and she's 10 years old. So I spent so much time trying to figure out, it's like, how was this allowed to happen?
Right.
Even in the 70s, but like,
right.
It was because her mom, the classic stage mom or whatever, just like signed off on it. And then when Brooke Shields got older, she sued her mom and the photographer and everybody to be like, hey, I was 10. That's me. That shouldn't have been allowed to happen.
Yeah.
And the judge like upheld it. They were like, well, your mom signed a contract. That contract's legally binding. So there really ain't shit you can do about it. But Richard Prince took a picture of one of those pictures. Took a picture of one of those pictures,
right?
Of one of the naked Brooke Shields pictures. Titled it "Spiritual America." Here's a fun fact: "Spiritual America" is a title stolen from a famous 1923 photograph of a gelded horse's hindquarters. There's a photograph from 1923 by a photographer named Alfred Stieglitz called "Spiritual America," and it's just a picture of a castrated horse's dick, right? And
I mean, that's all right.
Art, buddy, art.
Yeah.
But it says that that picture is a famously ironic commentary on America's culturally repressed society. Obviously,
sure. Yeah.
So, and
We're
says
all
here,
just a bunch of castrated horses.
It says here, I'm getting all this from Christie's, by the way, the auction house Christie's that sells all this art. This is their write-up of the piece. I'm getting straight from them. It says that Stieglitz, the father of modernist photography, would likely have been outraged by Prince's appropriation of the present image, as he believed in the purity of high culture and claimed a value for photography as a revealer of truth. But Richard Prince belongs to a generation of artists, including many, many others, who began using photographic procedures to undermine the modernist myths of authenticity, authorship, and the antipathy between so-called high and low art. So yes, these people, they questioned the notions of authenticity and authorship, which to me is just another way of saying we stole shit from people.
And they're calling it something else.
And I just don't. It just blows me. This dude's still like alive, and I think maybe active too, by the way. But there's a lot of things about the art world that I do not and will never understand. But this one, since finding out about it, is just near the top of the list, because to me, it's like, who else is going to care or is supposed to care about like an artist's ownership of their own creative output,
right?
If not the fucking art world, right? But
yeah.
I don't know. Well, it'll never cease to amaze me, the art world, and it's up buttery.
I think this is the one that's pissed me off the most, because like even with stapling a banana to a wall or piss Christ or whatever, it's like at least the person did that thing. You're not stealing. Like that's dumb as fuck that anyone would spend $10 million from that. But like this is not only dumb, it's a crime. Like it should be a crime. Like these people. The person that took the Marlboro ad should be now the dude that took the Brooke Shields photos, like, fuck him, I don't care. And on that note, by the way, I had one follow-up, which is that, so Brooke Shields tries to get all this taken down, right? And they're like, sorry, your mom signed a legally binding contract, nothing we can do. So here's what I don't understand. Child pornography is a crime. Like, it's a crime. You can't have it. There's no other crime I can think of to where if you just have your parents' permission, it's okay. Like, what if I murdered my sister and they go try to try me. And it's like, no, I signed a contract with my dad. He allowed me to murder my sister. Well, that sounds stupid. Well, so does photographing a 10-year-old naked. Like, what the fuck does that matter? Like, what does it matter that your parent consented when it comes to distributing a naked child is child pornography? What does that matter?
I don't know. I told you, I tried to read everything I could, trying to find basically the answer to that question. Like, why was this okay? And I couldn't. It says, and it's also to make it worse. Like, I didn't say this earlier, but he didn't take this picture when it was brand new. What had happened was she was, 10 in 1976 when the pictures were taken. By the way, her mom signed over the rights, and her mom got paid $450.
Whoa,
that's the price,
bro.
Yeah, it's fucking. Anyway,
I mean, never do it, but if you're gonna,
you know. And then also, obviously Brooke Shields was famous from a very young age, but not 10. That's also what makes it even arguably wilder and weird. This was just an unknown little girl he was like taking pictures of. And then she gets catapulted to stardom for being in Pretty Baby and then Blue Lagoon and all that. And then, so now it's 8 years later, she's an adult in 1983, right? Or 84, whatever. And that's when she sues. She becomes an adult and immediately sues and is like, hey, that was fucked up. I should own those so I can get rid of them because it don't hit for me. And like I said, the judge ruled against her. This was the argument that was made in the court. Gross's lawyers, the photographer's lawyers, argued that those old photographs could not possibly damage Brooke Shields' reputation because she had established such a lucrative career based on being a sex symbol. So they're basically like, well, look, you know, well, what? It's going to make her seem like less of a whore? Is that the problem? You know, like that's what they argued in court and they won. But anyway, my point is that is when this Richard Prince guy did this. Like the pictures were old. They were almost 10 years old, but it was in the news because she was suing to get rid of them forever. And that's when this guy was like, I'm going to mount this in the fucking Museum of Modern Art for the whole, I'm going to further expand these pictures' reach or whatever. So it's like,
and he just makes it on her.
Makes it even shadier and gross. But this is, let me read some the other pretentious bullshit that they say about this guy. It says, in 1977, Prince had begun the simple yet controversial act of photographing advertisements he came across during his day job in the tear sheet department of Time Life. By isolating images of models and luxury goods from their accompanying copy, he revealed a succession of highly codified visual cliches laden with cultural, social, and political meaning. His aim was to expose their inherent artifice. Most of what's passing for information right now is total fiction, Prince observed. I try to turn that lie back on itself. Here's what I don't get about that. Who the fuck don't know that a Marlboro ad is bullshit and fiction? You're doing the opposite. You're like making it look like it ain't a lie. Right. That's made up to sell shit. Like those bullshit ass art, jerk offy art rationalizations they do never make sense to me, but this one don't make sense more than almost any other one has ever not make sense to me.
It's like art critics. Like, I know that obviously sometimes you get art that's like invokes words and things you would say, and it's like, oh, the brushstrokes here or whatever. But when it comes to something like this, that's like stolen and nothing done different except for zoomed in, it's like it's so very clear that they're just having to justify their job and just make up so many fucking things. Like, it's just none of that you thought.
It's just like the wine people. The people remember we did the wine reviews all those episodes ago. It's the same thing. It's like they have to make shit up, find a way to make this make sense to justify their own existence and their whole thing. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just didn't even know that this had ever been. I'd never heard of this because I'm not up on the art world at all. And as soon as first of all, when I first found it, it was the Brooke Shields picture first. I was like, Jesus Christ, I'm on a fucking list now. That's nothing too. Again, don't Google it. But if you Google it and go to Christie's website, they have a picture of this picture just at the top of the page.
Which they ortoned.
And I don't know how that is like
legal.
It's like, you know, I feel like the FBI going to show up in my house for being on Christie's website with this page where this shit. It's just so Don't think it's so weird. But anyway, he was very aware that it was controversial, and of course he gets off on controversy. That unsurprisingly, that's part of his whole thing, right? But so he said that he did it in like his first. He said he was going to make this piece the centerpiece for his next show. It was a photography exhibition at the Met, right? And this was the centerpiece of it. But his show, his gallery, he was at the Met or whatever, was invite only. And it says, I'm going to read you what it says about it. This is when he first displayed this publicly. In the Met, the Metropolitan Museum, it says, the installation of the invite-only show almost took on the shape of a performance as it deliberately compromised the supposed neutrality of the gallery space and put normally passive art observers in the position of voyeurs. As Rosetta Brooks remembers, quote, visitors were made to feel complicit in a crime. As a result of the hearsay or art world gossip and stage controversy, the very act of visiting this show forced every viewer to overstep the normal threshold of indifference, denying us the objectivity we are usually allowed to adopt. Richard Prince's action was criminally simple. By exhibiting the photo, he made it an overt cover for a range of non-aesthetic responses from mild curiosity to scopophilia. Richard Prince ensured there was no other reason for visiting that gallery other than to see a picture of naked Brooke Shields as a child. So, yeah, let's find out.
And while you're looking that up, I just need to say something. I don't know how this is going to be taken. I hope this man is beaten to death.
Yeah, I know he sounds like a real piece of shit to me.
I hope he is publicly flogged by just 10-year-olds, frankly. That's what he deserves.
Well, scopophilia apparently just means this. If I'm reading this right, it's like something that almost all of us have. It's the aesthetic pleasure drawn from looking at an object or a person. So it's basically sexual pleasure derived from looking at like porn or pictures.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, we all got that.
Everybody's scopophilic as a motherfucker.
Not for 10-year-olds.
No, right. But yeah. Anyway, yeah, dude, it's like, because there's a lot of that in the art world. It's like, that's another thing too. It's like, you're allowed to be a fucking massive piece of shit because you're like artsy and weird. You know, like Picasso's a genius, obviously, but he was a piece of shit.
Right.
You know, right. But yeah, you're a tortured genius and all this stuff. So you can just do whatever the fuck you want and be however you want to be. And it's, but like, art, the whole art world is just really don't hit for me in so many ways. I love a good piece of art, fine, and I like museums and going to museums and stuff, but like so much about the art world just really I don't like it. I don't like so many things about the way that they choose to be.
But Picasso actually painted shit.
No, for sure. Yes, right.
Like this man this is a fucking I'm at a loss for words. This is a bit. Like he's doing a bit.
Yeah. It says he didn't come to the exhibition. It says he was conspicuously absent, leaving a receptionist in his place to deal with all the rumors, innuendo, and largely unsubstantiated reports that were swirling around the event. This event incited a cause célèbre among New York's art scene, and the debate over what artwork means, what it suggests, and what it may or may not represent continues to this day. So,
you know why he didn't come? Here's why I know he didn't come. Because if he went, then he would be forced to answer people's questions about what he did, and he would have zero fucking answer. If they said, so what was it you're trying to do here? He would just, all he could truthfully say is, I zoomed in on a thing that was already done. Like, he don't have it within him to off the cuff spit out these fucking art critic narratives and shit. So he just can't be there because he's a fucking dum-dum.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
How far does it go? Like, can I take a Scorsese film that is in 2x2x1 or 16x9 or whatever? Can I take it, put it on my computer, and readjust it to a 1:1 ratio, and then put that out and go, well, see, it's different because Scorsese shot it in 16x9, and here I have put it in portrait mode. And the reason I put it in portrait mode is because this signifies us as a culture minimizing art and putting everything into a box, you see. So here's Goodfellas. Give me $5 million.
Yeah, I know. I don't. It just seems like in art in particular, you can just get away with so much bullshit you can't get away with nowhere else. My dad always, I've said this before when we were talking about the bananas tacked to the walls and stuff, and my dad always used to say, which for all I know, he may have stolen this phrase from somewhere,
Right.
but he always used to say, there's a fine line between high art and total bullshit.
Dude.
And I think that is true to me, but everybody disagrees on where that line is. You know what I mean? Like sometimes something just like lands for me, even if I can tell it is like pretentious and artsy and stuff, you
For
know?
sure.
But then other times I'm like, oh my God, give me a fucking break. I just can't keep my eyes from rolling out of my head. Sometimes people get too far up their own buttholes with their artsy inclination. They get too many arts in their farts, and you start to lose me.
But again, this is even a step further because it's like,
right, all those people are making
you stole.
The thing. Yeah,
like, that's the thing I'm the maddest at is like, you stole and you're trying to pat. Like, I guess like with the Fat Jew and Fuck Jerry, like they don't get on there and say this is my thing that I did. Like they share it and they don't give people credit, but everybody knows like they didn't make it or whatever. But like this guy is such a step further and like getting all the credit, I don't know. I hate this so much. And frankly,
you're welcome.
I'm frankly upset at you.
Well, if I had to know about it, you had to know about it too.
No, yeah, I totally get that. Airmail?
Yeah, airmail.
Okay, so
because I feel like this is where this should go to. In response to a comment you sent me, somebody commented on, I guess last week's or the week before episode. You were talking about how they used honey in Henry V's wound or whatever, and
yes.
You said something about antibacterial, and I just made some smart ass crack about like, well, it couldn't have been antibacterial because they didn't even know about bacteria. And some guy commented and he was like, actually, pushes his glasses up. Well, actually, honey's had been known to have antibacterial qualities since the days of ancient Egypt and all this stuff. So it's probably, I guess it wasn't clear enough. I know that I feel like it'd be more accurate to say people have been using honey to help shit get better for a long time. I knew that and was very aware of that. I don't think the Pharaohs was calling it antibacterial properties.
Of course not.
What we now know that what makes it hit in that way is that it has antibacterial properties. But I was just saying they just knew that it did hit. They didn't know it was because it hit because of the impact it had on the untold billions of tiny little invisible animals running all up and down your blood and body and stuff. They didn't know how any of that shit worked. So,
well, as we've always said on this show, it's kind of our motto. Come here not for to learn, come here for to hit.
Yeah. Have better sex with Blue Chew. Blue Chew is the original brand offering chewable tablets. These erection-enhancing tablets help men achieve stronger, harder, throbbiner, and longer-lasting erections for all your get-down activities out there in the bedroom. That's right. Blue Chew is going to put their money where your dick is and offer you a month for free. The process is very simple. You sign up at bluechew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the U.S. of A., prepared and shipped directly to your door. You can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead, or you can just be ready whenever an opportunity comes up. The best part of it all is it's done on the internet. It's done online, which means no more visits to the doctor's office, no more awkward wiener conversations, no more waiting in line at the pharmacy and running into your old high school nurse or nothing like that. Corey, are you a big fan of Blue Chew?
Huge fan. A lot of people often ask me, Trae, they're like, Corey, does it work? And I'm like, my God, it makes my dick harder than trying to convince my wife to watch yet another World War II documentary. Know what I'm saying? Love them. You will be mistaken for a soldier with that full salute. Your dick ain't going to be at half-mast, brother. It's all the way up there. Know what I'm saying? Blue Chew won't stop until every man is bricked up like a brick house. That is the mission. I am a huge fan. I've been using it for a long time. And by the way, no, there ain't nothing wrong with me down there. It's just that extra confidence, that knowing that you're going to show up to perform, not having to worry about it. Blow on that thing. Here it goes. You could be missing out on the best sex of your life because they say there's nothing sexier than confidence, and Blue Chew can help give you the confidence where it counts. Make life easier by getting harder and discover your options at BlueChew.com. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try your first month of Blue Chew free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. We thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast. You're going to go to BlueChew.com, use that promo code POA, and you'll be able to try Blue Chew absolutely free. Get you a new dick. How about it? Subject line, guess whose despotic heel they were singing about? Have you ever read the lyrics to the former state song, Maryland, My Maryland? Avenge the patriotic gore that flecked the streets of Baltimore, plus a few choice words to describe President Lincoln and the Union, such as, she spurns the northern scum, the despot's heel is on thy shore. Vandal. Definitely not pro-Union. It was written in response to the Baltimore riots that took place when Union soldiers passed through Baltimore on their way to Washington. The soldiers were attacked by a mob of Confederate sympathizers. Gunfire broke out. People were killed, including civilians. Eventually, martial law was declared. Prominent citizens were jailed without cause. Habeas corpus? What's that? I rather suspect that Lincoln put the situation to good use as a what to coerce Maryland into staying with the Union. Otherwise, Washington would have been surrounded on all sides by the Confederacy. Maryland was a mixed bag politically. The western part of the state was pro-Union and everything south of Baltimore, mostly pro-Confederacy. My father grew up in a small village called St. Inigos, which was some 30 miles north of the concentration camp, a.k.a. Point Lookout Prison. Truly an awful place. I visited, and the whole area feels saturated with misery. It is said to be haunted. This is where the Potomac River and Chesapeake Bay merge, and I've read that they used to toss the dead prisoners into the river, only to have the tide return the bodies the next day. That ain't it. Burying them must have been nearly impossible. The water table is so close to the surface. Final Civil War trivia. I once asked my father if he knew any Civil War veterans. He said, yes, he was a colored man who had fought for the Union, and he was a very unusual person. He was the only man of either race who had a regular income because he got a pension. Plus, he always owned a car. Most of my life, I've lived within sneezing distance of the Mason-Dixon line to the south, but I think of Maryland as a mid-Atlantic state. South of Annapolis, you start to hear the Tidewater accent. That's our friend Marjorie, obviously on our discussion last week on what be the South.
Mm-hmm. And what be Maryland.
And what be Maryland. Yes, yeah. Accurate. And finally here on the same regard, coming in hot, subject line, Kentucky ain't the South and fuck a squirrel. Fellas, okay. To determine if a state in question is truly Southern, you can ask one question. Can you ice fish yearly there? If the answer is yes, it ain't the South. Kentucky boasts ice fishing, Civil War neutrality, and the ability to throw a ball to Ohio, easily making it the North. In my opinion, the South is Tennessee, Georgia, Mississippi, and Alabama, roll tide. The Carolinas and Arkansas are close. Virginia is pushing it. Louisiana and Texas are their own thing, and Florida is the North. Also, I'm Team Trae on the squirrel topic. No chance they give a shit about anything other than their own survival. Feel free to use my name. That is Storm Ingram. Pretty badass name.
It's a badass name, yeah. I appreciate the backup on the squirrel thing, Storm, but yeah, I don't know. Everybody's got their own different, what we were talking about last week, their own different interpretation and ideas of the, like, what is and is not the South question. I don't agree with your interpretation. But
I don't either.
Okay. First of all,
Colonel
I did not know
Sanders
they had. I never in my life knew that they had ice fishing in Kentucky. I've never heard of that. I thought you had to go way farther north to get. I didn't even think they went ice fishing in Ohio. I thought
Me either. Minnesota.
I thought that was them prairie Viking motherfuckers type shit up there. I thought, but anyway. Louisiana and Texas definitely both want to be their own thing and definitely have aspects of their own thing, but
Louisiana, the South.
I don't exactly for sure. And again, I just count. I don't know. I count Texas.
Yes, it is its own thing, but it's still the South.
Exactly. They are both. And Louisiana is like that too. They got like Cajun shit. They both are kind of their own thing, but they're still part of the South because I'm not going to let them off the hook by saying that they're not, basically. But
no, we get them.
Florida, I feel like a consensus has almost been reached. And you said Florida is the North, Storm, but I don't think that's Florida's
once
a state
you get
divided.
Past Gainesville,
Orlando for sure. I think anything south of Orlando to me, it's like it's just Disney World, and then north of that is the South, and south of that is New York Jews and stuff and Cubans, but
for sure,
all of which hit for me. But yeah, it's so part of Florida is the South. And again, Kentucky, Louisville does not feel like the South at all. I grant you.
Sure.
But like East Kentucky, though, man, like if that ain't
it's
the
so
South,
red.
like, well, I guess they would be like, well, we're Appalachian, and that don't, and that's different or whatever. So I don't know.
Sure, but dude, yeah, I get like a lot of people's Florida arguments for the most part, but it's like, dog, we just booked our place for Panama City this summer. Panama City's the goddamn South, and I will hear nothing to the contrary.
I grew up on the Kentucky line. I grew up in Middle Tennessee on the Kentucky line, 10 minutes from Kentucky, and a very rural area. It's rural on the Kentucky side too, and there ain't a lick of difference between this side of that state line and that side of that state line. That county is actually, I think it's Murray County maybe, but it's Tompkinsville, Kentucky, and then I'm from Salina, Tennessee, and that there ain't, you wouldn't, if you didn't know where the state line was, you would never be able to tell that you had crossed it in either direction. It's the same goddamn place with the same people. And I know Salina's the South. So how is Tompkinsville not, like I just.
If Kentucky wasn't the South, the show Justified wouldn't have hit so goddamn hard. You know,
man, Harlan, come on.
Dude, bruh. I mean, come on. Well, Trae, where are you going to be?
Spokane, Washington tonight and tomorrow. Tacoma was great last week, so Spokane will be too, I'm sure. Caleb Simon will be with me, very funny. Then I got Santa Barbara. After that, Salt Lake City's coming up and a whole bunch of other places. Beyond that point, go to TraeCrowder.com and come see me make a hit.
Tonight and tomorrow, I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina at Goodnights Comedy Club. Go to CoreyRyanForster.com for those tickets. Also holler at WeLoveCorey.com. That's me extra stuff. Listen to the Well Read podcast, listen to Weekly Skews, listen to Gravy Baby, and beyond all that, stay fancy, motherfuckers. Skew. Here's Lydia Lovelace.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Royalty and rednecks are alike. They both like cutting and picking fights. Biscuits and baked beans where they don't belong. Sit on down with Corey and Trae and learn some fancy shit today. We'll laugh a little even when they're wrong. They'll take you to a magical place where if you call someone a cunt, nobody cares. They keep it debonair at putting on airs, putting on airs, putting on airs.